Welcome to Creating Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Paige. This is an inspirational podcast where guests come on and share their real life stories. They discuss their struggles, hardships, and traumas. They also discuss how those encounters have helped them change, grow, and the healing process they've experienced. They share where they are today in hopes of helping someone else who could be going through the same or similar situations. So join me as we inspire others weekly to become the best versions of themselves. Hey y'all, welcome into another episode of Creating Yourself podcast with me, your host Paige. Today I'm super excited to have on LaJoy. She is the Gulf Coast Mermaid on Instagram. She's a single mom to one and she started doing mermaiding in 2019. She's going to share her story with us today. I'm super excited to hear it. Hey girl, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to hear your story. When you reached out to me, I was like, I've never had a quote-unquote mermaid on, so I'm really excited to hear your
Awesome.
story. We were just chatting before, and we kind of have like a mutual person that we follow and somebody that we know, so I was really excited about that. So I'm excited to hear your story today.
Yes. So the way that I found you, I actually saw you through a podcast, and you were interviewing one of the local girls that lives in a town nearby from me, and I thought, that's me. That the Creating Yourself podcast, I was like, that's me. I created myself,
Yeah,
and so I really followed you for maybe a year. And then just kind of organically reached out to you, and the stars aligned, and here we are.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be
I love
here.
that.
So my story begins where my marriage ends. Okay, so I was married for 18 years and was the mother of a single child. Had a lot of issues with my pregnancy, so it was a conscious decision to just one and done. I tease sometimes to say, when you make perfection, why continue? So I really just threw myself into that life. I was a wife, I was a mother, and I was very content. That's a good word. I was very content in my life. My ex-husband, my child's father, he did have a job where he traveled a lot. So me and my son were alone a lot already. I feel like that in some ways set me up for success later on. But fast forward, we ended up getting a divorce. And I found myself being a little lost. I had not been on my own since I was in my early 20s. And so just the thought of being on my own, being the sole support of my family was a little daunting. And I'm not going to lie, I had about 2 weeks where I just had major panic attacks, major anxiety attacks. Just the thought of, oh my gosh, I'm alone, I worked my way through that by doing running. I actually started running because I couldn't breathe when I would have these panic attacks. I couldn't breathe. And so I started running because when I would run, it would regulate my breathing. So we made it through that phase. And, I'm very grateful that I had a job at the time that really stepped up and provided for me and my son. I did end up a single parent with a single income, no child support, no spousal support. So I was literally on my own. And so then things started flowing nicely. It took about 2 years for me to sort of relax and say, okay, God's watching out for me, and all of our needs are taken care of, and we're not going without anything. And, I did all the super vigilant mom things. When we got a divorce, I put my son in counseling to make sure he was okay, and so I did all that. All right, now fast forward. He grows up. He goes off to college.
Mm-hmm.
I was a mother who was super involved. I mean, my days revolved around taking him to school, dropping him off, picking him up from school, being the room mom, going on field trips. Like my whole existence revolved around him. And he had some neurological issues when he was younger, so there was a lot of therapies, like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. So I was immersed in this mother thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he grew up. So he grew up and he went off to college, and he has gone off and survived and thrived, but that left me really floundering. Like, who am I? Who am I? I was wife. I'm not wife anymore. I was mother, and I'm not mother in the capacity that I had been used to being mother. So I started doing this exploratory, like, who is Joy? Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
I went almost on a quest. So I started taking painting classes, or I got into drawing mandalas, yoga. Am I a yoga girl? Meditation.
Right.
I did all the things.
Yeah.
Who am
I'm not
I?
a
Who am
yoga
I?
girl.
Yes. I
Not
want
for
to
me.
be a yoga girl. I really do. I desire to be a yoga girl. And I enjoy yoga, but I haven't really become yoga girl yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was invited. I invited my friend, a very good friend of mine. I said, "Hey, let's go take a scuba diving class." And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"No." She said, "But let's take a free dive class." And I was like, "Okay," because I was just trying to figure out who I was. I was throwing things up against the wall to see what was going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
And although I was enjoying all of these things, it didn't feel like it was me. So we took a free dive class, and I don't know if you know what free diving is, but free diving is going to be okay. So free diving is when you literally take your breath hold. You don't have a scuba tank, you don't have auxiliary oxygen, nitrogen, anything like that. You're literally just going on your own breath hold, and you're diving. And so we took this free dive class. It was so empowering. It was so empowering. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm a free diver,
Yeah.
like this is me. Now that was not without struggles. I don't want to glaze over everything and be like, oh, my life is like Cinderella, and I took a free diving class and I became a great free diver. Again, let's go back to panic attacks. I had a panic attack the first time I did my first open water dive. But I had an amazing instructor, and he said, you know what? He said, let's just go explore the water. Let's go find some fish. We'll come back and revisit this later. So about 4 weeks later, I came back, took and passed my free dive. So I'm a PADI free diver. And then my friend became a free diver. And then one day, I'm on the internet. Now, this is a dear friend of mine. We are great friends, but I had no idea. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's got on a mermaid tail. And this is the same relative to free dive class.
Yeah.
And I call it jealousy, but it wasn't like a bad like jealousy. It was like a I want to be like you jealousy.
Yeah.
It was like more
I want to
of
do that too. Yeah.
I want to do that too. So I was like,
Yeah.
Laura, you're a flippin' mermaid. How did this happen? And so she actually, she set me up, and I became a mermaid too. So when I say that, so me being a mermaid, there's a lot of different types of mermaids. So I'm basically a free diver who decided to do it in a beautiful tail. So I am a mermaid free diver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've seen them, like, I feel like that became a really big trend in, like, I don't know, maybe like 2018, 2019. And then I feel like it just got bigger and bigger. Like, it became a really, really big thing. And you started seeing it, like, on Instagram, it seems like a lot. And then, like, I feel like at, like, aquariums and places like that, you would see them doing it. I know we have an
Mhm.
aquarium about 2 hours north of where I'm at, and I remember seeing them doing it in the aquariums and stuff, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, it's just not something that you would like think of off the top of your head to like go do until I feel like you see
Right.
it somewhere else. You're like, wait, you can be a mermaid? Like,
Oh,
it's like every little girl's
yeah, I
dream,
know.
you want to be the little mermaid and everything. Like, that's one of my favorite movies too, growing up, The Little Mermaid. And it was like, I never
Little
understood
Mermaid.
why she wanted to go live with the people. I'm like, I want to go live in the ocean.
Right, me too. Now, it's very interesting because the if you say what mermaid movies do you identify with, or what stands out to you? Like I remember the Little Mermaid, the Disney, the original,
Yeah.
and then Splash. So I'm of that era. So Madison and
Yeah.
Splash, Tom Hanks, Daryl Hannah, and so I really never grew up going, I want to be a mermaid when I grow up. That was just
Yeah.
never, I was kind of a tomboy. I'm still not a real girly girl. I was kind of more of a tomboy. And so I am not a glamorous mermaid. I will tell you that. This is about as glamorous as I get. Right? I'm dressed up right now. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm as dressy as I get. I even put on a little lip gloss. So but I'm not a girly girl. But when I
Same.
saw that tail, yeah, I saw that tail, and I thought I can merge freediving and mermaid together, and so that's what I've done. Then I went on. I'm a person that likes to. Once I found this is my thing. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the one that I threw against the wall and it stuck. This is it. This is me. I'm a mermaid. Then I just started like trying out different classes. So I want to get different certifications. So I'm SSI mermaid. I'm a PADI mermaid, and and I think this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about too. So yes, I am a mermaid, but I am someone who has came from low self-esteem, um, being deserted, abandoned, kind of being left alone, floundering. Who am I? Um, and of course, when I say abandoned, that's the way it feels when someone divorces you after 18 years. That's the way you feel. I don't feel abandoned by my son. I'm proud of my son. I'm glad that he was able to grow up. But I did find myself sort of alone. And then the self-esteem issues that go along with that.
Right.
And so I think that that's one of the things that I really wanted to talk about too. It's not just that. I'm a mermaid and that's awesome, because it is. But I truly created myself, and being a mermaid helped that so much. So my self-esteem, as I would push myself with the free diving, my self-esteem would grow. Um, yeah, and like I said, I'm not a glamorous girl. I'm not a glamorous mermaid, but every once in a while we get to do these photo shoots, and I'm like, who is that? But when I see myself dive, I still say that. When I see
Yeah.
videos of me diving, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am blowing my mind. Like my self-esteem has just really blossomed, and it's given me that purpose. And
Yeah.
so I became an instructor because I want to be able to share that with other people. If I
Mm-hmm.
run into someone who is interested in becoming a mermaid, I want to be able to share that with them. If I run into somebody who just doesn't know what they want to do, I want to be able to give them that experience. Maybe this will be the thing that they throw against the wall that'll stick. Maybe it won't. Maybe they'll go on to
Right.
find something else maybe they'll become the yoga girl, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I want to be able to I love it so much, and it's brought me so much joy and so much happiness and so much peace and so much fulfillment and
Yeah.
self-esteem and all the wonderful words. It's brought me so much that I wanted to be able to do that for other people. So I did go and get certified. So I am a PADI instructor for mermaids also. I'm a PADI mermaid instructor. And so I can teach other people how to become a mermaid. And you can, so sometimes I think when people see me on Instagram or Facebook, they'll be like, oh my gosh, because I'm doing 45 and 50-foot dives in a mermaid tail. And it's not typical. I will tell you, it's not, not every mermaid does that. There are different mermaids. So there's mermaids that will just do parties, and they're just in the pool, and they really have a gift for connecting with children, and they can be that character. They can be that Ariel and comb their hair with a fork. And, that's not my gift. There are other mermaids who they want to swim and they want to do all the tricks and stuff like that. You've got your aquarium mermaids, like you talked about.
Yeah.
So there's different niches for all the mermaids. I go really, really deep, but I can teach you to do what your comfort level is. So it's never going to be like I'm going, 45 or 50 feet. You need to go 45 or 50 feet too. It's within your comfort level, and that self-esteem and that creating yourself, creating your persona, it comes very naturally. So.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I love that you talk about, it helping you gain self-esteem and confidence and all those things, because I think that's really important. I think finding something that not only you really love and that you're really passionate about, I think finding something that helps you gain self-esteem and confidence is so important in life. And especially when you are kind of recreating yourself and you've kind of, like you did, you are no longer a wife, you're no longer a mom, like you said, in the capacity that you're used to. Yeah.
Right.
When your kids get older, like I find myself, I have two kids. One's getting ready to be 14 in about a month and a half, another's 8. And I even find myself, not being, my mom duties are changing. They're getting older. They're not needing me in the same capacity that they did even 2 years ago. So it's really important that you said that helped you gain some self-esteem and confidence, because I think that's really important, especially as moms. We find ourselves, I feel like every couple of years we are becoming different. It's a different stage of motherhood. And it's so important to, like, again, recreate ourselves and find something that helps kind of fill that void of losing that sense of motherhood that is needed from us, because they get a little older and they don't need us as much. And I think that's really important. Because that's one thing that is not talked about a lot. Like, yeah, you're going to be a mom. Here's a book on how your pregnancy could go. There's tons of ways it could go. Here's a book on it.
Right.
But once you become a mother, all hands are off deck. Like, there's no book, there's no journal, there's no anything that's going to be like, here's how it's going to be, And so we all find our own way as it happens. But then as they get older, there's still, like, no set way of how things are going to go. So as they get older and they don't need you as much, you're like, but wait a minute, come back, like, wait, And so finding something that kind of fills that void for us is really important, and it's not talked about. Absolutely. Yeah. So I love that you talked about that.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to. I think that's important, with all life changes. So, going from single or from married to single, or even having just a relationship that falls and then you found yourself, like, they become your unit. I think we sometimes as women, we do immerse our individuality in our relationships oftentimes.
Absolutely.
And so whether it's just a break, I think it's always really important to keep a sense of self. What do I like? And you may not have the time to do it now. Like, you've got 2 little ones, so you may not have the time to do everything, but you can still remember who that girl is. Who is she? And it turns out I was an adventurer and I was a mermaid.
Right. Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's really important to, like you said, even in a relationship, you really kind of you do lose a sense of self, regardless of how aware you
Mhm.
are that you want to keep your independence. I feel like everybody loses a sense of self once you get into a relationship. And the longer that relationship goes
Yeah.
on, you do lose that. And you can be as self-aware as you want to be, but you still lose yourself in a relationship, no matter what. Like
You
you can,
do.
you can devote yourself one night a week to yourself, and him to himself, or her to herself, or them to them, whatever
Mhm.
you want to be. Um,
Exactly.
but it still becomes you as a couple, regardless.
Right.
And so it's
Yeah.
hard, but when that ends, it's like you look around and you're like, where am I? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
And
What's
so,
left? What's left of me?
right,
I, I've
right.
given so many of the pieces of me away. What's left?
Yeah, it's like the
I
big
have
piece in the
chose
middle is
to.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've chose to stay single. I've been on my own, um, happily uncoupled, for 11 years. And it's so funny I say the happily uncoupled because again, I don't want to gloss over this and be like, oh, everything's perfect, because
Mm-hmm.
it was a very hard time. It was a very heartbreaking time. It took me probably 7 years to get over the end of my marriage, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process of that, I didn't wait 7 years to start trying to find me again. I was doing this exploratory thing once my son was grown. I would say my son was home for about another 2 or 3 years after the end of my marriage. And then, once he was grown, that's when I started this exploratory thing. But I was still grieving the loss of my marriage for
Mm-hmm.
years. I mean, and I think I'm probably still healing. It'll be
Oh,
11
for
years in
sure.
August, and I'm probably still healing from that. Um, we have, and it has taken years. It was not instantaneous again, but we have formed a friendship at this point. Um, with my son's father, which is really ideal if you can do that. If you can go through a divorce and choose to put your child first and
Mm-hmm.
choose to co-parent, it's ideal. We didn't do it right off the bat, but in the last year or so, we have become civil and friendly. And it's so funny because he apologized to me. He's like, I'm so sorry for our past and everything that happened. And I said, I appreciate it. And I literally, and this is from the heart, it's like, I appreciate you saying that and validating my feelings, and having, remorse, not remorse from leaving me, but from maybe some of the things that happened. Okay.
Right.
And as much as I appreciate you saying that, I wouldn't change a thing. Wouldn't change a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because now this is probably going to sound a little cuckoo, but that is how much I love where my life is right now. That's how
Mm-hmm.
much I love where I have recreated myself
Yeah.
and created my life. I am so content and so pleased and in such a happy state of mind and such a happy place right now
Yeah.
that I appreciate you saying that. But had this not happened, this would not happen. And I wouldn't trade this for all of that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can totally agree with you on that. I've been through a lot. I mean, I'm only 36, but I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm 56, this, lifetimes and things. But like, it's the same. Like, the things I've been through have made me who I am today. And like the relationships that I have went through have created who I am today. And it's like, I can't sit here and be like, I don't wish I hadn't gone through that, because had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't have the fire in me that I have. I wouldn't have the drive in me that I have.
Right.
And, I've
Right.
been married and divorced twice. I have two kids, two different people. And it's like those situations have really created who I am. And while they were,
Mm-hmm.
a few of them were extremely difficult and extremely tough, and I've been in very dark moments, I sit here and I'm like, I don't know where I would be had I not gone through those. Like, I don't think I would
Yes,
be
yes,
as
yes.
strong, as determined, and as driven. And even doing what I'm doing, like
Mm-hmm.
this podcast, I would not be doing it had I
Right.
not gone through those moments. And that's what really like keeps me going, is because just even having people on like you, and making these connections and talking to people, it's so rewarding, not even for myself, but just in general. It's like so gratifying to like get to talk to so many different people on like a weekly basis that I don't know, I love it. I really do.
Yeah, and you wouldn't trade it. You wouldn't trade it for the
No.
world.
Mm-mm, absolutely
You
not.
know, all the hard times, and the hard times are hard. And you know, there's been a lot of tears. There's been a lot of, you know, well, I know in my situation, my son's father, my ex-husband, he went on and remarried pretty quickly after,
Mm-hmm.
and created a whole new family. And that was really difficult to watch because, you know, there's all the, well, what was wrong with me? Well, why
Yep.
couldn't I be treated like that? You know,
Yep.
why couldn't I be the princess? You
Right.
know,
100%.
why is that not my life? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So there's all that. And, but at the end of the day, it's because my destiny and the just the organic flow of the way my life was going to go was for this moment. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I hope to be able to inspire other people with my story, inspire other people with my life, inspire other people who maybe feel like they're thrown away, that
Mm-hmm.
they are, you know, well, what was wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. You know what? It's just a situation that didn't work out. And it's time now. You cry your tears, you grieve, you um, you do all the things that you need to do to feel what you're going through, because you need to validate that, because those
Mm-hmm.
feelings are true. But then at the end of the day, we always have to look for the future, whatever that future is,
Yeah.
whether it's, you know, a podcast or a mermaid or that artist, or write a book, write that book that you've been talking about. Or if you're, you know, if you're if you want an education, if there's something that you wanted to be when you grew up and you didn't
Mm-hmm.
get to do that, you know, be that future. Look towards the future. Cry, grieve, and then when it's all said and done, dust yourself off, look for the future, and just roll into that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, like you said, even though you can sit there and be like, well, why wasn't I good enough? Why wasn't I the one that got the fairy tale ending? Why wasn't I this? Why wasn't, why, all day long? It may take you a while to figure out the why, but there's something better. There's something more. And that once you realize the why and you get to the why, you're going to be like, oh, okay. Now I see why, and I
Oh, yeah.
understand the why.
That big picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like literally, I heard something this morning that I was. I'm currently in the process of getting my life coaching certification, and one of the videos that I watched this morning
Awesome.
for it was, you don't eat a sandwich in one bite. You eat it in small bites. So you can't see the big picture. Like, you can't eat the big picture all at once. You have to get there in small
Right.
bites. And I thought, I was like, that is
Small
such a good
bites.
analogy. Like, I love that. So it's like, you got to take the small
Yeah.
steps to get to the big picture. And I was like, I love that.
To get to the big picture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things too, you know, I have been a mermaid since, let's see, I got my free dive certification in 2019, and then it was like at the very end of 2020 when I got my first mermaid certification. And then I've been an instructor since 2023. So I'm fairly new as an instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like it's growing slowly. And sometimes we as people, we get like, oh, why isn't this moving faster? Why isn't this moving faster? But just like you said about the big picture, I may not be able to take that whole sandwich right now. I may not be able to digest that whole sandwich right now, you know? So I'm still doing that even now with this phase of my life. I'm still doing like, you know, I get a little excited, little like what's around the corner. Um, but you just have to slow down and, like you said, just take one bite at a time, because I have another big picture coming around the corner and I don't know what that is yet. But, you know, it's not time to eat the whole sandwich yet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's like,
I love
the
that
analogy was so
you're
good.
getting your life coach. I think it's so needed.
Thank you.
It's really
yeah.
good. It's really good.
I'm really excited.
And I think we can put that on a lot of,
yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's something that I've thought about for a while.
So, and it's so needed. It's so needed. I know. I started off with a life coach whenever I was first going through my divorce. She was a lady that lived in my town, and she had this really cool. I love crystals and rocks and gemstones, and she had this really cool crystal shop. You know, and I would go. Do you?
Yes.
I love rocks and shells and crystals. That's my jam. I would go into her shop, and it's like, oh, this one's, you know, this one's to give me peace, and this one's to help me with my throat chakra, and you know what I'm talking about. And then I found out she was a life coach, so she actually helped me so much in the first 2 or 3 years, just navigating so much of that. And I would go in and sit and talk with her about every 2 weeks, and we would just talk and kind of lay everything out. And she was brutally honest with me. I can remember one time I went in there and I was talking to her, and she was like, and she said it in such a kind way, it wasn't even offensive. She was just like, yeah, you know, the victim, it's just not looking good on you. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But she said it in a gentle way to where it wasn't offensive. But yes, life coaches are so valuable and so needed, and I'm excited for you to go into that.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to, once I get my feet wet with that, I really want to work with domestic abuse women, survivors, because I'm one, so I really want to work with them, because I just think that sadly, that need is always going to be there. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, and I just think that there's not enough people out there to help women like that. I think that the need is really there. Yeah. So I'm excited to get my feet wet with the life coaching, and then move into that eventually. That's where my heart really is, and kind of use my podcast as a branch off of that too. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I love crystals and everything that has to do with all of that. Actually, I have a little shelf up here behind me that you can't see. I can show you when we're done. But with all my crystals and stuff on it, there's actually a crystal shop here in my hometown. And I met the owner of it actually at a like a vendor event that we have here. And I met her there. She had her crystals set up and everything, and we just started talking and chatting, and it was so like genuine and authentic and just chill. And we added each other on Facebook, and we just started chatting and everything. And then she had a addiction therapy center for addicts and stuff, and she actually sold that and then did her crystal shop full time. And I go in her crystal shop at least once a week here, and I go in there and we just chat, and she's like one of my best friends now. And I'll go in there and I'm like, listen, Shannon, I'm dealing with this, da 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 da. And she's like my own little life coach, and she just doesn't know it. She's like my own little therapist. And it's something about going in there. It just brings me so much like calm and peace. And I walk in there and I'm just like, like I love it. It's so great. So I went in there recently I went in there recently. She went to this big like crystal convention and bought a bunch of new stuff. And I went in there and I saw this one that she has. I'll show you. And I was like, oh, I have to have that. I have to have it. And she told me what it does. And I was like, of course this is the one I pick out. Like, why not? Of course it would be. It was hilarious.
Right.
Yeah.
I do that. So if I'm feeling a little flighty, I'll just go and grab one of my grounding stones and slip it in my pocket, and it kind of just keeps me feeling a little bit balanced. And I love the heart shaped ones. I love the heart shaped crystals and rocks and things like that. I'm a avid collector. I don't know all the names of them,
I don't
so
either.
I'll look at them like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. I love it. I love it. But I actually went to her almost as if a person would go to a therapist, to be honest with you. I would go in there and sit and we would talk and we would kind of hash out everything that was going on. And I remember there were some really big decisions that I was having to make on my own, and I didn't like feeling like I was making these major potentially life altering decisions. Like for my son, for example, he wanted to he's very smart, and he wanted to take a class in high school that was above where the school felt like he could take. But he had to have this class in order to get to that class. It was a prerequisite. And I even went in there one day and we were talking about that. And she said, Joy, she said, what is going to be worse? The fact that you choose not to sign that waiver, allowing him to take that class because you're afraid he may fail, or you go ahead and sign that waiver and show him, pass or fail, do good or not, I trust you and I trust the decision that you're making, and I support the decision that you're making. So even just like things like, I say little things, but that was a catalyst, because then he went on from that class and got awesome ACT, rocked it out, scholarships, and it took off. That one decision. And I was so because I was such a I guess they call them helicopter mother, I was trying to prevent natural consequences, It's like, oh, I don't want to set him up for failure. The school's saying that he can't pass this test or this class. The school's saying it's not a good idea. What should I do? What should I do? But he was like, Mom, I want to take physics. And in order to take physics, I've got to take this chemistry class. And so, and it turned out to be a catalyst, but I was terrified. So find somebody that you can talk to. Like you said, you're going to be a life coach. You're going to be helping people make those hard decisions, guiding them to make those hard decisions. But to the people out there listening to the podcast today, when you're going through these tough times, don't be afraid to reach out to someone for help. And if you don't have a friend or a relative, or maybe you just don't want to unburden your soul and be like that person that's always complaining about your life, reach out, find somebody, find a life coach, go to, find a therapist, or just a support group of some sort.
Yeah.
Because you can make it through this. No matter what this is, you can make it. And you can come out shining on the other side, and you can create your life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's my biggest thing. It's like, if you are scared to try something, like, what do you have to lose if you don't? Like, just try it. I was so scared to start this podcast, and I have another friend who has one, and she was like, just try it. Start out interviewing friends first, record like 5 or 6 episodes, and then if you just don't feel like it's for you, you don't ever have to post them. And I was like, all right, fine, you're right. Like, sure. And I did it, and I started, and I was like, I freaking love this. And I've done it ever since.
And look at you go. Look at you go.
I love it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
Yeah, well, I've loved having you on. I think that your story is amazing. I just love that you really took off with, reinventing yourself and recreating yourself. And I love that it gave you so much confidence and so much self-esteem. And I think it sets a great example that if you want to do something, you set your mind to it, you can do it. And it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter how dark the hole seems right now, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And you
Absolutely. Can get Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. So I appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure you hit the follow button on whatever listening platform you are using. And head over to my social media pages and give me a follow there as well. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok at Creating Yourself Pod. And if you have a story you would like to share on this podcast, email me at creatingyourselfpod@gmail.com, or you can message me on any of my social media pages. Make sure and come back next Tuesday for a brand new episode. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye.